Hello, and welcome to Inventors Helping Inventors. I'm your host, Alan Beckley, inventor of the Wonder Wallet. If you're an inventor searching for proven ways to make money with your invention, if you dream to see your product selling in stores everywhere, you've come to the right place. There's no better place to get help than from experts, inventors who've already achieved success. Every week, I interview successful inventors, asking them the questions you want to know. Tune in to learn from the experts so you can get your invention out of the tank and into the bank. What's the most difficult part of inventing? It's not the creative process of inventing a new product. It's not even navigating the patent process. The most difficult part is marketing your product so you can make money from it. If you're like most inventors, you love inventing and creating, but you hate marketing. Maybe you'd prefer to turn the marketing of your product over to an agency that claims to have helped hundreds of inventors. Unfortunately, that's expensive and always ends badly. Here's the good news. Marketing is a learnable skill, and I can teach you, empower you to market your own invention through a proven, effective process. Sound intriguing? If you're a serious inventor who's ready to learn how to license your invention to get it to market sooner rather than later, my product-to-market training could be right for you. Through 7 hours of one-on-one, in-depth training, I will show you how to create a clear, concise, compelling marketing message for your product. I'll show you how to use a new AI agent to find 30 or more companies in just minutes that could be great partners to license your product. Then we'll use another AI agent that looks at your top 10 companies and then finds names, titles, email addresses, and LinkedIn profiles of up to 100 contacts. Armed with all this, I'll work with you to design a step-by-step process for you to use to reach out to companies and contacts with your clear, compelling message. Then you're ready to begin contacting the companies yourself. I'm planning to work with no more than 2 inventors through the product-to-market training. If this sounds like something you'd like to explore, to finally get your product off the sidelines and into the market, let's talk and see if this program is a fit for you. Just email me at alan@alanbeckley.com and put in the subject line, Product to Market. I'll reach out to you and schedule a time for us to talk. Again, just email me at alan@alanbeckley.com. Put Product to Market in the subject line. I look forward to talking to you. Welcome to episode number 642. Today, I interview, once again, Tony Gonzales. Let's call it Part 2. Tony Gonzales is an inventor, entrepreneur, patent holder, and practicing attorney who knows firsthand what it takes to turn an idea into a real-world product. Tony is a co-founder of Slick Barrier, the revolutionary pest control technology featured on ABC's Shark Tank. Slick Barrier takes a completely different approach to pest prevention. Rather than relying on pesticides to kill crawling pests after they enter a property, its clear coating is applied around the base of a home or structure and dries to an extremely smooth, glass-like finish. Because many crawling pests cannot gain traction on the slick surface, the barrier helps stop them before they ever get inside. Now, for anyone who's listened to my podcast for any length of time, you know that I have a specific format that I adhere to with every podcast interview, and that is what I'd call a curated interview style. I ask a series of questions for the guest who answers them and expands upon them, and it draws their story over a period of time, their challenges, how they got started. You guys know this if you've listened. Well, I'm going to go in a different direction with this one because last week we had our third podcast interview with Tony Gonzales, the inventor of the slick barrier. Since then, we in our Inventors Helping Inventors resource group had Tony speak to our group, and he told his story in such an amazing way, all about the ups and downs of his journey, as well as he spoke about his experience with being on Shark Tank. And last week, we didn't have time to get into all of that, but I felt like the story of just letting Tony Gonzales speak uninterrupted as he goes through describing his story would be something that you would enjoy hearing, just as our Inventors Helping Inventors resource group did. So with that, let's get to Tony Gonzales, part 2. I think you'll enjoy what he has to share with you. And with that, I'd like to turn the floor over to Tony, and thank you so much for being here tonight. Yay!
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to share my story. I'm always happy to do that. Again, I'm Tony Gonzales. I'm actually here in New Mexico. This is where I'm from, but I've been in Arizona since college. Did the whole political route. I wanted to get into politics. Then I decided I may as well just go to law school. When I was in law school, it was interesting because I did an internship in Washington, D.C., and there was a gentleman that had started law school, and then he went and got his MBA. And I spent time talking to him, and he got me so interested in building businesses that that's all I wanted to do. That's all I've always wanted to do. I did start practicing law, but even in doing that, I tried to start other businesses, and some I did, and then some just didn't work. It was hard to manage being a lawyer for the first time and then starting a family. And so a lot of these ideas that I had, I think they would have been phenomenal. But I think one thing I'll share with you is you get to a point in your journey and you pivot or you deviate or you just stop. And that kind of happened with me for a while, but my law firm was a business. And so that's what I did. And I ran it, and I lived in Flagstaff at the time for about 10 years. I had a law practice, and it was very successful. And I loved business. Even though it was just the law, it didn't matter. I loved business. But then as I got to the point where as I was practicing a little more than 10 years, I wanted to start a business, something different. I just wanted to do something different. Like you always say, what are you going to do when you grow up? I'm still asking myself that same question, right? So I decided I just wanted to start a business. And I just started coming up with ideas, anything. I started clothing. I'd even started a business for men's wash and skincare. And I even did supplements. And I just was trying to figure out something just to get me outside of the law. I wanted to do something. And in doing that, lots of ideas, but I spent time listening to the podcast. So I spent time listening to inventors. I spent time listening to all kinds of podcasts because I feel like in that 10 years that I was building my law firm, I really wasn't understanding like how it really is to scale a business that's not law. And I had to give myself that education. And I spent honestly a good 2 years just reading everything, listening to everything, trying all these different ideas. But I was excited. I knew something was going to work. But at the time I had my son, we were living in Phoenix, and my son was out at the pool, and we grabbed a towel, I wrapped him with it, and he was 4 years old. And then he started crying and reaching for his elbow, and I knew it had to have been a scorpion. I never had issues with scorpions, even though I'd lived in Arizona for, most of my life. I've never even seen scorpions up to that point. I knew what they looked like, but I had no interest. I had a friend that was infested with scorpions at the time, and he was already thinking of an idea of trying to stop scorpions from climbing into your home. And he would consult with me because he was like, can I get a patent? And of course, like all of it took time to realize, can you really get a patent? And then you start to do the research and you try to see, okay, there's really nothing out there. But I wasn't that interested. I really didn't think his idea even though I knew it was working on his house, I didn't see the need for it. But when my son got stung and he ended up in the hospital, and it was the worst experience ever. He almost died. It was crazy. But while we were doing this and I was distraught, like at 5 in the morning, I had this idea and I said, you know what? I'm going to pivot and I'm going to start working on this idea with my friend. And this is a guy that I grew up with. He followed me to Arizona. I called him at 5 in the morning. I said, you're never going to believe it. I'm in the hospital. Jackson got stung by a scorpion. I said, let's start your business. And I moved quick. I bought a truck. We were already working on logos. We wanted to do this. But the thing was, we didn't have a product. We knew that if you had a product that you could put around the base of your home and it makes it slick, a scorpion cannot climb it. We knew that. That's when you get a scorpion, and there are other insects that you guys might have found in your sink, for example, or your shower or your tub, and they can't get out. We've all seen it. So the concept we got, but we didn't have a product. And my buddy, he was trying everything. He was going to Home Depot, he was going to Lowe's. We were ordering from manufacturers. We were trying to figure out a way to have this produced for us. But they didn't make anything like this. And you would think like a polyurethane, because you're like, so when I grew up a cabinet maker, so of course, when you're putting on the clear coat on your cabinets, it makes it nice and smooth. But even that wasn't smooth enough. It still had these little fissures that let scorpions climb. And oh my gosh, it was unbelievable. We knew we had something, but we couldn't figure out exactly what we had. So eventually, after a lot of trial and error, we found a product that worked. And it was a clear coating. You put it around the base of the home. The company that was producing it, they were making it for military, really for a lot of their equipment that's out in the sun. And it had those same features. And we knew it worked. But I don't know if this helps you guys. Back then, we were just wanted the product. I didn't even think, okay, maybe I should talk to them, secure a contract with them, make sure they're always going to be in business. If they're not in business, maybe they'll give me the ingredients, so they'll give me their list and I can actually go have someone else design it. But of course, I didn't do that. And our company, like, it started working. We were in Arizona and Phoenix. I think they did a couple of news articles or maybe some segments with us, and it blew up like unbelievable. And we bought as much of that product as we could. But all of a sudden, we were down to maybe a gallon or two, because that's all it is. It's a clear coating. It's like paint, right? So when you go to Home Depot and you buy a canister of paint, that's exactly what we basically were buying and putting on people's homes. And because we knew it worked, we never thought that this company would stop producing it. But we were like, okay, we can't patent their idea, but we can patent the utility part of it. And so we started working with patent attorney in Arizona. He was in Scottsdale, and he filed our first patent. Being an attorney, I thought, you know what? I want someone that has more experience in coatings. So we ended up doing research. Of course, when I say we, it's always me. I did research. I found somebody in Michigan who was a practicing attorney that actually went to school and studied coatings. That was what he studied. He studied just chemical engineering and mostly focused on that. He worked for all the major paint companies. So when we went to him and we said, we got this great idea, this is the guy that helped us figure out, okay, maybe we can't patent the actual product itself, but we can patent the utility, because there's nobody who's ever designed a product that can be used in this way. The clear coating that dries hard, smooth, and glass-like around the base of a home that keeps scorpions from climbing up. No one ever did that. But the attorney saw it and he said, you know what, guys, this is it. I think we can get it done. And we never thought we were going to get a patent. Honestly, everybody that we talked to said, you'll never get it. We did patent pending with the first attorney because we wanted to be able to advertise and not feel like people were going to steal our idea. So then when we did that, every time we advertised, it was always patent pending. And it worked. Everyone stayed away. Everyone just started. Pest control companies were coming to us to buy the product. And oh my gosh, we were in cloud nine. But here's what happened. The company making our product went out of business. So all of a sudden we had no product. We had nothing. We were back to square one. And so then we were like, okay, what do we do? And then what do? You don't, like, it's like they always say, like, when you're like, I think Reid Hoffman says it. He says, if when you launch your company, if you're not embarrassed about your product when you launch, then you launched too late. You always have to launch as quickly as possible, whether or not your product is perfect. It's never going to be perfect. If we had waited for our product to be perfect, that would have taken us 3 or 4 years. But we started it right away. We started that journey and we started getting our patent, our utility patent. But what did that mean? Now we had to go and actually design a product. And oh my, we had to raise capital. I don't know if any of you have raised capital, but we had to go raise capital. And we just started pouring money into chemists designing the product. And then we started pouring money into our patent attorney because we really wanted that patent. And when we got the first patent, oh my gosh, we knew, even though we didn't even have a product, we knew that this was going to work. And it took so long. And the first product that we produced, I'm sharing this with you because if you guys are making products, the product you end up with may not even be the product that you first designed. So the first design product that we actually made ourselves with obviously a chemist was a solvent-based clear coating. And what I mean by solvent-based, that just means that it has that smell, right? It's flammable, has that strong smell, but it worked. All of a sudden, I said, I'm not going to make that same mistake. So I drafted the contract, made sure that this guy was going to always make it just for us. He was never going to make this product for anyone else. And that even if he went out of business, he was going to help us figure out a way to make it down the road. We tested it and it worked. So what did we do? We went and put it on about 300 houses in Arizona. Within a week of every house we put it on, it turned yellow. So it's supposed to dry clear. It turned yellow. And oh my gosh, we're back to square one. We had to go back to every house and repaint their house. We had to fix it. And so we had to raise more money in order to fix the problem. And then, of course, we had to go back to this guy and say, look, it's turning yellow. And he's like, oh, we forgot to put the UV in it. So, of course, he puts the UV in it and it starts working. And we're like, finally. But what happened is we had tested that product that turned yellow. We tested it with all the major pest control companies. Like you're talking about Rollins and Terminex and all these companies. We did a test for them because we wanted them to buy the product from us. We didn't want to do the installation. We basically wanted to start selling product. That was going to be our business. We tested the market. We made sure it worked because we were in the market and we were applying it ourselves. We were charging for that. But at the same time, we were pitching it to everybody. When it turned yellow, oh my gosh, everybody just said, we're done. Everybody that was excited for us, they didn't even talk to us anymore because we had to go back and fix the houses that they worked on and then our houses. And of course, we were like, this is crazy. So what we ended up doing is we fixed the UV and then we became a little bit more successful. But by then we had learned our lesson. Ultimately, you have to be responsible for your product, but it's okay to be embarrassed, right? It might take a year or two to get past that, which it did for us. But ultimately we said, okay, now we have a product that works. Now at that time, that was one thing I didn't like. I didn't like that it was flammable because we couldn't even ship it over on an airplane. It always had to go ground. And then all these countries wanted the product, but we couldn't send it to them because it was flammable. You can't fly it. You have to take it by vessel. And that was so expensive. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to design another product. I'm going to design a water-based product because I know that there are water-based products that you could use. Those are water-based products are products you use inside your house. It still has a latex smell to it or whatever, but they're safe. You don't have to use gloves. You don't have to use a mask. If it spills, you can just wash it with water and soap. And of course, I said, this is what I'm going to design because I know this is going to be the future. People don't want this solvent because of the smell. And we had so many people complain about the smell. And then, of course, we were only selling it to pest control companies, but then their customers were complaining. But I said, you know what? I'm going to take this time and I'm going to design a water-based. So we hired probably about 10 chemists. And so we had to raise more money. And we hired 10 different chemists to design a water-based product. And almost every single one of them, they were excited because it had never been done. And they were willing to help. And they jumped on it and they gave us they worked hard and nobody did it. And I swear, all of those 10, probably 10 of them at the end, they said it's never going to be done. But we finally found someone that made it. But again, here was the issue. This company was a subsidiary of DuPont. And so they had all the resources and they were making it for us and we're happy with it. It wasn't the best, but it was still great enough. Of course, what happened? They ended up getting sold. They got sold to a different company and that company didn't want to make it for us. So we were like, oh my gosh. And while all of this is happening, we're still trying to put on people's homes. We know we're not going to have a product. We do have one that smells. Then all of a sudden, my partner comes up to me and says, let's get on Shark Tank. And I'm like, oh my gosh, really? You want to add this to my plate? So I said, you know what? Fine, let's do it. Because maybe by the time we're on Shark Tank, we have a product that actually we can sell. And so we did it. We didn't do it the way that everyone else does it. I don't operate that way. I didn't fill out an application. I didn't send it in and hope that someone read it. No, I did the back door. I found all of the producers that did auditioning, and those were like the ones that you really wanted to focus on, I thought, because they're the ones that are going to be like, okay, it's interesting. But I didn't want it to touch 5 different people's hands before it got to that person. So I started inundating these producers with videos. And they were crazy videos of, look, scorpions can't climb. Look at your fingers. And my one of our partners would have his fingers on a brick and the scorpions would barely touch his fingers. And they were just great. It was just great video content. Then of course they said, yeah, we like it. Let's do it. But I don't know if any of you've been on Shark Tank or applied, but it's grueling. It really shut down our business for over 6 months
Wow.
because by the time they give you the thumbs up, then you have to start filling out applications. You have to do background checks. Then you have to start meeting with them. Then you have to start giving them product. They want to see it. They want to test it. They want to make sure that it's environmentally safe. They want to make sure that they have all. And of course, we didn't have the product that we wanted to pitch. We knew we had one, but no one was going to make it for us anymore. And so we did have this solvent based, but we were like, you know what? Screw it. We're just going to say we have a water base. I don't care. And so we basically pitched it to them as it was a water-based product. We didn't have a water-based product. We had a product that, but we didn't have a water-based product. But so by the time that we got to filming the actual episode, we were starting to make progress with the water-based product. We were. And what we did is actually one person that worked for this company, he ended up helping us design the same product, but he made it even better. And I'm telling you, we were on Shark Tank in 2023, and now we're here in 2026, and the water base is finally done. It still has issues because it has a little tint of yellow, but it's finally done, right? So of course, for us, we were like, we didn't care. We knew the concept. We didn't patent the actual product itself. We patented the utility part. So during that whole time, we ended up getting 4 different patents. We ended up pitching the sharks. They were excited. We ended up getting an offer. That's a funny story because we really needed the money at the time. We did. We were literally like, we need one of these sharks to turn around. We need somebody to invest because we needed money. It wasn't even the prestige or maybe they'll help us get into retail. We wanted the money. And as we got into California and the night before, we were talking to another investor. And he finally sent us a term sheet and we signed it the morning of Shark Tank.
Wow.
So then we were actually walking onto the show having just raised capital. So then my partner and I, as we're like standing there waiting to go through the doors, we look at each other and we're like, we don't even need money. Now we don't need the money. So then and if anything, like getting more money was just going to make it more difficult because then everyone's going to just have to start losing, even though all of our investors would have been okay with it. Like we still we knew that everyone was going to be diluted. But in the middle of the episode, we were getting frustrated because we really wanted it. I think my partner and I, like during the episode, we really didn't care at the very beginning because when you're pitching them for an hour, right? Even though it's minutes is what they play. So probably the first 30 minutes, we didn't care. But after those 30 minutes and Mark Cuban jumped out and another person jumped, then we were like, screw this. Now we want it. And then we fought like really hard, like behind the scenes during that hour to just get that investment. And then we finally had Lori. She came in and was willing to give us that investment. But that was like a huge experience for us because we still didn't have a product. And we knew that we filmed in September. So we were like, okay, we don't know when they're going to air it. They could air it tomorrow or they could air it like towards the summer. But we didn't know, and we're still working on trying to get this water-based product. We didn't have packaging, we didn't have labels. We created the name Slick Barrier just to get on Shark Tank. We never even used that name. So we had to build websites but we really didn't know how quickly we had to operate because we didn't know when they were going to air it. And so for us, we were just thinking, all right, let's just work on the product. So once we got on the Shark Tank, we knew that because they tell you, even though they filmed it, they said, you're really not on Shark Tank until we air the episode. So a lot of people, a lot of entrepreneurs have been on Shark Tank, but you can't find their episode because they never aired it. And so for us, we were like, we have a little bit of time, but time really didn't help because we still didn't have that perfect product. So ultimately what we did is we said, let's just keep on it. Let's keep trying to find a product that worked. And then we got a call in January and they said, hey, we're going to air your episode in 2 weeks. And we're like, crap, what are we going to do? We didn't even know what we were going to sell. We didn't know, like when we got phone calls, I didn't know what I was even going to sell anyone. And we knew that the water-based product that we had at the time, it wasn't good enough by itself. And we would use it in our old pest control company as a base coat. That's the whole idea of our product. It's a clear coating. But if you take the clear coating and you paint it on a wall that's like stucco, for example, that substrate, it absorbs. It doesn't just sit right up on top of the surface. It gets absorbed. And that's why you have to do multiple coats. So for any type of painting, I always say do 2 coats because that first coat, it always just penetrates that substrate, that surface. So for us, we were like, okay, we have enough product for the water base. It doesn't work by itself. But we don't want to just sell people the Ultra, which is the solvent-based, because we didn't pitch that on Shark Tank. So instead, once they aired the episode, in those 2 weeks, we had to figure out, what are we going to sell? And all of a sudden, we came up with an idea of saying, okay, let's do it in quarts. We'll sell 1 quart, that's a water-based, 1 quart, that's a solvent-based. We'll put them in a box, and then we'll just sell that. That's what we're going to sell. But of course, we're getting to the 2 weeks when they're going to air it and we still don't have a product. And oh my gosh, packaging and design, like we were moving quickly, especially in those 2 weeks. And we were able to get the labeling done. We were able to get the cans done. We were able to get all of our manufacturers, because it's a different manufacturer that does the water-based and the solvent-based. So we were able to get them to get us product. In 2 weeks, we did a lot. And all of a sudden, once it aired, we were actually ready that day with a box that we were going to put 2 products in and we were going to sell. The box itself, I don't know if we had that yet. I think what we were selling mostly were just like really, if people bought it from different states, we would just send them the 2 different quarts and say, here you go. Eventually we got it into a box, but it was quite the experience, right? Because you're like trying to figure out, are we even going to have product to sell if it airs? But it actually worked, right? Sometimes the time that you really don't have that, not that you procrastinate, whatever it is, but once you're under the gun, you can get a lot done. And my partner and I were able to get a lot done within those 2 weeks. And that's what we sold. And so for us, we sold probably thousands and thousands of units. And then we had Home Depot reach out to us right after the episode. And we started selling in Home Depot, but that's when we had to put them in a box. And we sold it as a box. And then now, during that time, while it was selling at Home Depot, we finally got a water base that we're happy with. We're still working on it, but we finally have it. And so now we're like, okay, so now we're just selling the 1 quart water base in 3 major states, in Florida, Texas, and California. And that was basically the journey. And it wasn't, but the journey is not even over because we're still trying to figure out, how do we scale? Right? We thought Home Depot was going to take us to the top. But what Home Depot did is they believed in us to the point that they called us back that next year. We pitched them and they're like, we want it. We want your water base. Let's start selling it. We'll sell it all over the country. We're like, yes, this is it. We're scaling. And then the tariffs hit. And all of a sudden, Home Depot freaks out because they're like, they don't care about our products at that point. They're more concerned with, are they going to have products to sell? So then they have to go to all their other suppliers that supply product to them, or items, whatever it is, wood, other paints, anything. And they focused on that, and they gave us, we had to sit back and just watch and wait. And they finally, after the, it was like a year of the tariffs affecting us. And then finally, this past year, we were able to get into those stores, but we barely got into those stores maybe a month ago. But man, it's just been a journey, and it's been a challenge because we still, now I can relax and say, I have 4 patents. I have a product that I'm proud of. We have a cool name. We're on Shark Tank, but nobody knows about it. So when somebody goes like, so if someone says, because our product works on everything. We had universities test it for cockroaches, and we've tested it for crickets and ants and even bed bugs. We've tested for all kinds of different types of pests. If a pest cannot crawl up a glass, it can't crawl up our product. But what happened? Now we have to go out and let people know what this product is, because not everyone knows. Even in Arizona, where we've been since 2018, a lot of people still don't even know that we offer this. And we offer it in Arizona just because we know for scorpions, it's a hit, because that's really what scorpions do. You'll find them in your yard, but ultimately a scorpion is going to end up in your house. And a scorpion's sting is significant. It will put you down, and it may not kill you, but it is significant. And so in Arizona, we know that anybody that I get in front of, and I could say, hey, you have scorpions? Yes. Let me tell you about this product I made. And every single one of them is like, yes, I want that. I want that. I want it. But there's so many people out there. It's hard to do that, right? It's hard to educate. So right now, that's what we're really focused on right now, is the education part of it. And in doing that, we're still testing products. We're still testing it for other types of insects. We're still trying to do as much as we can to really keep the company growing, so that ultimately when we do scale, we can relax and say, everyone knows about this product. They know how it can be used, and then they can use it. And then now, all these years later, after the whole fiasco with our paint, with our coating turning yellow, we're finally having pest control companies, major pest control companies, coming back to us and asking them to pitch them the product. And so that's pretty much been our journey this whole time. And we're still doing it, right? And I feel like we started everything in about 2018, and here we're at 2026. So we're like 8 years in, and I still think we need another 2 years before we finally scale to the point that someone will just buy us. Anyone can buy us right now, but it's not worth it. The investment in our patents, in the research development, and then in actually developing the product, the one water base that nobody has ever made, we can't just let it go. We really need to stick it out. And it's hard doing that, because with any invention, if you're going to be the one to scale it, that's great, but it's hard work. And sometimes it's nice just to make something and people are like, you know what? That's interesting. I want that. I want that idea. I'm going to buy it from you. I'm going to manufacture it myself. But our product has just been a little different. And we did have the tariffs. That was really hard on us. And then, of course, pest control by itself. Pest control is wonderful, that industry, because it can withstand a COVID outbreak or anything else. It's one of those services that are completely necessary. But everyone's still doing things the traditional way. They just use pesticides. They talk about trying to create these physical barriers to stop pests from getting in your house, but they really don't do that. Ultimately, what they're focused on is just spray. And politics are a huge part of it, because all of a sudden you have, with Biden, we thought we were going to get a lot of traction because we're like environment. And then we're like, you know what? Maybe we want Trump, because Trump is actually going to boost this economy. And that's what we were struggling with, is really raising capital. And we couldn't do that during Biden. And so then we were like, okay, Trump comes in and we're going to raise a ton of capital. But what happens? Then he's lax in the environment. So all of a sudden you have the environment, the EPA they're less restrictive now. And it goes back and forth, right? So the only way to actually be successful is just to stay doing what you're doing. And I talked in my podcast, with Alan, I talked about this hill of doubt, because that's what happens with businesses is ultimately, and I've learned it just because I've started lots of businesses. and I've helped people start businesses, and I speak as a corporate attorney or business law attorney. But I can tell you that hill, sometimes it could be pretty small, but for the most part, that hill can be pretty tall. And as you're going up that hill, you're trying to get to the other side, but the whole time that you're trying to climb this hill, it's just this hill of doubt, because you start feeling doubt like when things go wrong, when our product turned yellow, we start feeling doubt. When they weren't making our product anymore, that's more doubt. When all of a sudden customers start complaining about the smell, that's another one. Then we have Home Depot, we're finally thinking we're there, and then you have tariffs, more doubt. And it just goes on and on, but you got to keep climbing. And that's what we're doing. We're climbing, and we know that at some point, life is like peaks and valleys, right? So if you could get over this hill, then that's when you scale, is on the way down. And we're still in that process. We do think that we're finally there. I can finally say that I'm not embarrassed about my product, or any of our products, because we make other products too. And all these products together it's gonna be amazing. But we can't produce everything right away, because when you go into retail, you gotta be able to prove that you can sell that one product. They're not gonna let you put 3 other products in there if you can't sell that one product. So for us, we're prepared to get over that hill, and on the way down, we're gonna have lots of other products to start producing. And then our utility patent part of it covers a lot of these different inventions that we've actually made in trying to design a product, or really a physical barrier that keeps pests from being able to climb. So that's my story, guys.
This summer, I've set the goal to reach out directly to help more of you, my loyal podcast listeners, to get solutions to your most challenging, vexing issues as inventors. I have a fun event that I've never done before that's available to you, my podcast listeners, coming up very soon this Friday. Freebie Friday, Q&As with Alan. So what is Freebie Friday? When is it? And how do you sign up? So the what? Freebie Friday is basically a group coaching for inventors that is free of charge. And the when? Freebie Friday will take place on September 4th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And the how? To sign up to join us for Freebie Friday, just go to alanbeckley.com/Friday. Oh, also one more. Why should you sign up? Bringing a group of inventors together into a mastermind like this produces magic. It is a lot of fun, a lot of learning, and everyone learns from each other. I've done a lot of masterminds. It's always amazing. I may not do another of these events, another Freebie Friday, so don't miss out. Make sure to sign up to attend at alanbeckley.com/Friday, and we'll see you on Friday, September 4th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Thanks so much for tuning in to Inventors Helping Inventors. If you like the show, please tell your friends about it. Make sure to subscribe in iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts so you won't miss a single episode. Talk to you soon.